In a quiet Hokkaidō temple, a glass case holds a child's doll in a faded red kimono. Visitors press close to photograph its porcelain face. Then notice the unnatural detail. The hair is not the glossy wig of a toy, but strands with the luster and split ends of the living. Locals don't laugh at the story. They leave combs. Chapter 1. A Gift for a Little Sister. The year was 1918, and the winter wind came off Ishikari Bay with a salt that bit the lips. In a narrow shop near Sapporo's market, a teenage boy weighed coins in a mittened fist, studying the shelf of toys set out behind rippled glass. The doll he chose was small, with eyes that clicked when tilted and a neat bob cut straight across the brow. The fashionable style his sister admired on schoolgirls and actresses in magazines. The kimono was a cheerful red, chrysanthemums dancing its hem. He imagined it in his sister's hands and smiled despite the cold. At home, the little girl clapped, hugging the doll so tightly the porcelain clicked softly against her collarbone. She named it Okiku, not for the ghost in older tales, but because the name felt round and kind in the mouth. The doll slept beside her on the futon. She whispered secrets to it, breath fogging the winter air. When spring came, she took Okiku to see the first crocuses by the wooden fence, to the shrine where they rang the bell lightly, to the river bank where ice broke like sugar. The bobbed fringe never moved. Its length was perfect, a ruler's line. When summer typhoons rattled the shutters, she pressed the doll's face to her cheek and said they would count thunder together. Her brother watched, relieved he had given something that made fear seem smaller. On an evening rife with mosquitoes and the scent of grilled mackerel from a neighbor's yard, the girl brushed the tiny fringe with a borrowed comb and declared it smooth enough to see the moon. Chapter 2. The Loss and the Offering. The fever rose as quickly as a squall. One day she was pale, the next her breath rasped like paper rubbed together. The family boiled water, fetched a doctor, set cool cloths across her brow. The doll lay under her hand on the futon, the red sleeve damp with sweat. The brother sat by the screen, afraid to blink. In the courtyard, rain knocked rhythm on the wooden bucket until the rope sang. When the bell at the temple tolled for evening, the house fell still in that different way that means silence has replaced sound, not ended it. They dressed her in white. The doll lay where she had last held it, face turned toward the indentation of her pillow. For a while, no one moved it. The room felt full of her, even when it wasn't. On the seventh day, the family placed the doll on the household altar beside the tablet bearing her name. Smoke rose straight from the incense as if the room itself held its breath. Summer slid into a steel bright autumn. The mother wrapped the doll in cloth and carried it in both arms to a nearby temple. The priest there accepted it with a bow, saying that objects loved so fiercely sometimes need to be loved by many hands, not just one. He set the doll in a side hall where paper windows filtered snowlight into milk. A small dish for offerings appeared beside it, a habit of the faithful. Someone left a child's comb with 3 missing teeth. Someone else, a ribbon. The temple mice learned to go around that little shrine as if told. Chapter 3. The First Strands. Winter returned with a dry cold that cracked lacquer and chapped hands. A parishioner cleaning the hall noticed the doll's fringe looked heavy, shadowing the glass eyes more than before. She thought it a trick of light and continued dusting the altar rail. The next week, the priest measured it with a scrap of twine, a fingertip longer. He did not announce this, only tied the twine to a ledger page and kept the page. Word traveled in the way it does in towns where weather holds conversations, softly, with repetitions that sand off disbelief. A barber came and offered to tidy the fringe. He trimmed a straight line. The clippings fell with the whisper of human hair across red cloth. The strands were fine, not plastic, and the ends split exactly as a living child's might. He set the cuttings in a porcelain bowl. By spring, the fringe cast its shadow lower again. The bowl filled, then another, neat coils like little nests. Those who came to gawk lowered their voices in the side hall. The doll's gaze remained gentle, the chin softened by age and over-enthusiastic kisses from a child no longer there. Mothers touched their daughters' heads and tied their hair tighter. A woman who had lost a baby left the comb she had kept in a drawer and felt presentable for the first time in months. "It grows because someone loved her," the old caretaker said, not unkindly. "Love prefers direction." One evening, the brother returned as a man. He stood by the case and thought he saw, in the glass, the ghost of his sister's hand smoothing the bow at the doll's waist. When he blinked, it was only his own hand, old now, straightening a ribbon that needed no straightening. Chapter 4. Temple's Silent Watch. The temple kept a quiet ledger, not for spectacle, but for the humility of record. Dates, weather, festivals, and a simple column headed Fringe. The numbers ticked upward in millimeters. Occasionally, a trimming reset them to 0. Winter visitors arrived smelling of wool and snow, stamping their feet on the stones. Summer brought sandals and cicada song, children peering with solemn curiosity between stacked sandals at the Ginkan. At night, the hall listened. Paper doors breathed faintly with the shift of air. Sometimes the caretaker, passing with a lantern, heard a noise like hair sliding against glass, and found nothing out of place save a comb set delicately askew, as if small hands had found it blind. Once, he discovered a crescent of clippings on the offering dish, arranged like a wreath. He did not disturb it until morning. When the sun came up, the circle had loosened itself and pooled like ink. People knelt and whispered names they could not say at home. The doll's glass eyes reflected their faces as softly as a winter pond. No one claimed miracles aloud. The caretakers had learned that words with capital letters make spirits retreat or posture. Instead, they placed a fresh cloth on the shelf and kept the floor polished until it shone like still water, the kind a child could look into and see herself, even if she could no longer reach. The barber aged. His apprentice took the measurements, pencils behind ears. Outsiders asked if it was a trick. The apprentice shrugged and showed the ledger. "Whether or not you believe," he would say, "it is our job to keep her tidy." It sounded like a joke, and also like a vow. Chapter 5. Between Spirit and Relic. On a morning when the first cranes stitched themselves across a low sky, a young woman arrived with her grandmother's ribbon, a faded cherry that used to be red. The priest nodded permission. She untied the old bow at the doll's waist, smoothed the silk, and tied the new one carefully, but not perfectly. The lopsidedness felt right. On impulse she parted the fringe and tucked a whisper-thin strand into the ribbon's knot, the way mothers do when dressing daughters who don't yet hold still. The latest measurement showed growth enough to trim. The apprentice snipped. The clippings went to the bowl with the soft sound of rain beginning. The young woman hesitated, then asked whether she could keep a single hair as a keepsake for courage. The priest weighed this and shook his head gently. "It belongs to many now," he said. "Let it stay." She did, leaving instead a small comb wrapped in washi and a note that said only "Arigato." Tourists came and took pictures and argued on the steps. The town shrugged, as towns do, and put on more tea. The doll's expression never changed, but the room felt kinder, the way rooms do after someone chooses care over proof. In the ledger, the apprentice wrote a new line: ribbon tied, weather, cranes, fringe, even. That night, as snow began to powder the steps, the caretaker swore he heard a child breathing, the soft on-off of a winter sleep. He did not look for the source. He banked the brazier and left the hall in darkness. Under the glass, the ribbon's knot loosened a fraction, the exact degree it takes for hair to lie without pulling. Some hauntings demand fear. This one asks for care. If you find a strand where no wind blows, remember, not all growing things have roots in soil. Comb gently, leave a ribbon, go in peace, and be counted in the length that love remembers. The Okiku doll legend in Hokkaidō tells of a temple-kept doll whose hair appears to grow, often linked to a child's spirit and a family's mourning. Families in Japan commonly place beloved keepsakes on home altars, butsudan, and later entrust them to temples. Offerings like combs and ribbons symbolize care. Hair carries cultural weight, sharing a homophone with spirit, kami, and is sometimes seen as retaining essence. Trimming with respect, keeping ledgers, and avoiding sensational claims reflects how many communities fold strange events into everyday ritual.